did find the letter tapes in the door,
Yeah.
which we copied
Yeah.
somewhere during this.
Oh, so that's,
Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is approval of minutes of January 13th, January 6th, and January 6th special meeting.
will we approve the January 6th regular meeting as presented?
Okay,
Yeah.
so second to approving January 6th regular
Yes. I'll
minutes.
second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. January 13th. Is there a motion to approve January 13th?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 13th meeting.
This was the very short meeting where we approved the work at 31 Papa Swamp, the Batista proposal. So I'll second that approval.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And last is the January 6th special meeting where we met with inland wetlands. The motion to approve those minutes.
I'll move we approve it as long as somewhere in there we put that we were talking about 31 Papa Swamp Road. Because it just says you're talking about low impact bioengineered trail option number 4 in the Batista report, but doesn't it?
So right there, you want to.
Somewhere.
At 31 Papa
Yeah,
Swamp.
at 31 Papa Swamp, just so it's clear what we're talking about.
And you are,
Okay, so is that a motion to
Yes.
approve them as amended?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Additions to the agenda, I have two. One is budget schedule, and second is a resolution concerning the Northwest Connecticut Economic Development Committee. They wanted a supporting resolution for some of their activities, which we can act on or not, but I just wanted to get that on our docket of things we have to do in the next soon time. So are there any other additions?
I'd like to add 31 Papa Swamp Road update and King quit claim update.
Okay. Okay, so there are 4 additions to the agenda. Any more? All of them, is there a second?
I'll second the 4 additions,
so you're making a motion to do the 4.
4 and 1. Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, communications. We've got one from Mr. Patel, who owns Hitching Post, came by mail. And it just reiterates the concerns of the owners of the Cornwall Inn and about competition through internet hospitality accommodations. I believe the planning and zoning has taken the issue up, so I will write him back and just tell him that is the board that's dealing with the issue. With your permission.
Sure.
Any other communication? Public comment? Any comment from the public?
I'd like to express a thank you on behalf of the Calhoun Cemetery Board for the work that the town crew did to trim the tree, and Jim has said that you're having Root take down the rest of it, which we really appreciate it because it, protects the oldest monuments there. So that's much appreciated. And on the other issue,
Just while we're on that issue,
yeah,
did we talk about the second tree? Was there a second tree, a maple tree or something that looks?
Jim said there was one that he thought should come down.
That one's in the middle, so if the weather cooperates, we would take down that second tree that's in the middle. Seems like it's a dying maple tree in the middle of a bunch of graves, so while everybody's here, maybe we can keep on that, and then we also trim some branches on the way in, so that will be a substantial amount of work, but if we can, weather cooperates, we can get it done.
Thank you very much.
I think while the ground's frozen would be our best bet,
Right,
so.
good.
Thank you.
Karen, here's a communication from Mr. Patel we got earlier, and I said I'd send it to P&Z.
It was
Thank you.
already part of our record last week, he presented.
Nice, great.
The other
Okay.
item, Gordon, I wanted to ask about was the Region 1 meeting tomorrow night, which appreciated Joyce sending me the amended agenda. But I was hoping that, the last two meetings we've asked for an opinion from the Board of Selectmen. And I was hoping that you would reach out perhaps to your Democratic colleague in Falls Village, Pat McGarry, and see what their thoughts are, so that you at least would have a fuller understanding of the positions, and they have retained legal help. And she said she would be very pleased to meet with you or talk with you, whatever you wanted, so you could at least understand and get a full picture of the issue.
Okay, any other public comments? This issue is on our agenda. Okay, so next is assessor position. Earlier this evening, we met with Barbara Bigos, town assessor, and Joanne Dodge, who is her clerk, and we discussed a new arrangement. As Barbara's retired most of the time to Florida, but she does come back regularly. She is willing to do the assessing. She's certified through next year, and she would work with Joanne. Joanne would be in the office 2 half days plus a full day every week, and then Barbara can be in the office in March, June, August, October, December, January, part-time. So she basically assured us of her ability to do the job. We know she's got a very good track record of doing things, and Joanne also works in Falls Village. So I think in this situation, this seems like the best way for us to proceed in 2 ways. One, to finish out this year, but also look into next year. So we have a proposal for her that would basically keep the accomplish what we need to accomplish without changing the budget. The actual salaries would be adjusted with those new hours and responsibilities. But I look for a motion to finish this year under a new arrangement with Barbara and Joanne, and then secondly, we'll have an arrangement, another thing for the year coming. So is there a motion for a new arrangement with Barbara and Joanne?
We should separate them.
Yeah, I think by year.
Yeah, that this
We have 2
year's,
different documents.
this year's, so I'd make a motion that we make
Amended budget.
amending the budget within the assessor's budget without changing the overall impact to our budget, to our full budget.
Without changing the bottom line.
without changing the bottom line.
Right.
And accept Barbara Begos as our licensed, registered,
Certified.
certified assessor on a part-time basis.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I think we're very fortunate to have Barbara step up and continue to do this. She made it clear that if there are other certified appraisers that, in the future she would look to really retire, but in the meantime, she feels a attachment to the town of Cornwall, and we're glad she does. She's also working in a similar arrangement up in Salisbury, so I think it's a good thing. So, all those in favor of rearranging things for this year, say aye. Aye. Next year, we have a budget proposal that would be similar to this year's budget, with one big difference, that we have to have a new contractor for the tax collector and the assessor software to bridge the data systems between the two offices. And instead of it running us $1,000 a year, that may run us as much as $16,000 for the first year, and then $9,000 for previous years. Barbara and subsequent years. Barbara and Jean are still working on this, so that's preliminary, but it seems like those are, I think we can at least adopt the budget proposal for next year's budget. And
Can we, when we don't know the tax collector's portion of it?
well, the biggest thing is that we will commit to hiring Barbara for these numbers. The numbers will really count. We can do everything that would enable us to hire Barbara and Joanne on the basis we've talked about. So in other words, we're accepting their proposal for next year in addition to finishing out this year, with the exception of figuring out the unknown new expensive software at the bottom. And we have to build the budget that way.
So we're accepting,
So we're,
the personnel proposal
and as well as the
Well, and the
budgetary.
rest
for the
of it.
budgetary.
Yeah, we'll, while we're at it, because we're in the budget season, we can just insert these numbers into our budget for next year, as far as their office.
So I move we approve the proposed assessor's office budget for fiscal year 2015-16, contingent upon, continued coordination with the tax collector's office regarding contracted services.
Right, with QBS.
Yeah.
And that we retain the services of Barbara and Joanne for the coming year, 2015-16 budget year, their services as
Sure.
the assessor
Yeah.
office. So that's a
I'll
combined
second-
motion.
I'll second that then.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Good. Next is budget. We have Jim Vanity, the highway foreman, join us. Thank you, Jim. It's been a busy week for the fire highway department. Jim's been right in the middle of everything. I think what did you say, you got 3 hours of sleep last night?
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago, but it tends to.
And I was awake last night.
You don't need any more.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we appreciate you coming to try to, we'll go over some budget numbers, and you can come up to the table if you want to, or sit there, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you should have a package of stuff. I've got a couple of extra ones here. First thing I thought we could do is maybe go over the capital section. We have,
Did you send it around? I don't remember that.
yeah, let me see if we can, well, I handed it out last meeting. Little
Oh, is
pack-
this stuff in that one?
Yeah,
Oh.
this thing I handed out last meeting, there's the 5-year plan, which we can go over that, and then there's the actual this year budget, and then there is the little worksheet for the coming year. First thing is the 5-year plan, which is a plan, it's not a budget document, but it's a plan that we have in there for $250,000 for roads in the West Cornwall, Pampa Swamp area. We have $80,000 for bridges and culverts,
Yeah.
I need one too.
and we have $20,000 for town buildings, $80,000 for fire department tanker, which isn't on the agenda tonight. Jim and I did sit down between events last week, went over the capital budget, which is this document, which shows our balances to date. And yeah, we have this one here. So basically we have we have highway equipment, we have $10,000 in that capital line right now, but we've just spent that to buy a plow. So that doesn't exist anymore. Currently, we have $79,000 in bridges and culverts, which is minus, we have to minus $6,000 for the Leonard study at Popple Swamp Road. But we would have that money would carry over to the next year. We have money for the truck, and the truck, the new highway truck is supposed to come in maybe in a week or so,
Next Monday.
next Monday, so 4 days.
Is that what the plow, the 10,000 for the plow was for the new truck?
Oh, there were 2 plows, yeah, the new truck, got a new plow with it. And then we replaced the worn out one.
So we have some money for the highway truck, but that's gonna go away soon too as the new truck comes in. Jim had trouble in his truck this last storm, but on
By your house.
by your house, what are you gonna do?
Smooth as ice.
On top of the door, actually.
Motor problems.
Yeah.
So, but we heard today from Arola's that may not be a major, do we get any figures from them or?
No figures yet, but we're on the low side of what it could have been.
Right,
So,
it's not as bad as our truck problems last year.
right, last year the ejector nozzle dropped into the cylinder. This year it just split. So it stayed put, it just split open, so.
Outside the engine.
Yeah, outside
Right.
the major components of the engine, so.
And how old is your truck?
2004?
I believe it was.
So is that one that's planned for replacement pretty soon then? if you're
No,
gonna
no.
start Chucking a lot of money into it?
Fred, the truck that he had problems with last year, that's next due. But now the engine is practically rebuilt on his truck. So I looked into preventive maintenance for Jack's truck, which is our newest one, to try to come up with a formula to try to not have this stop happening. And they said that just leave well enough alone, and because you could put new ones in and have the same problem.
It's just
So,
a
the way it
typical
is, yeah.
problem with these kind of trucks under that kind of pressure and load.
I think it's more pressure, the hills, because you don't see
Right.
internationals
Right.
all over the highways,
Right, that's
just
true.
ours.
Well, I mean, not just Cornwall, it's all the area towns that have had internationals, isn't it?
Yeah, Gordon and I were in Torrington at Morola's this morning. There's quite a fleet over there of different towns. So
Right.
Sharon's having, they were towed actually, after they dropped my truck off, they went and got Sharon's truck. Same problem, electrical. Well, not same problem, but all season long with the town of Sharon, it's been electrical on their truck.
Yeah, I
So,
saw him pull one off the Westwoods too.
yeah.
That's not a good thing. So is there a a brand of truck that's better on the hills than International, or that's
Well-
the best choice of
We're gonna
what's
find
out
out
there?
Yeah, International couldn't meet the EPA standards with their motor, so they fought, no, we're gonna keep our International engine, and they lost for EPA reasons, and now that they run different engines, Cummins, and so all of my friends are like, you know, you have to have Cummins, and that's what the new truck has, is a Cummins. So hopefully, they're a good name, hopefully they hold up.
You think the reason yours is severely damaged was you turned it off sooner?
Yeah, or just decided to brake in a different manner. You know, Fred was going up Wickham Hill, maybe he had more, you know, engine was working harder to get up that hill than, you know, I was on top of 45, but, yeah, I noticed the color of smoke and shut it off. So,
Good one.
kind of looked neat, but shut it off anyway.
So in our capital, we'll be talking about bridges next week. Sort of getting ahead of ourselves, but because we got bumped because of our meeting schedule, I invited Dave Batista and Roger Kane to come in next week and talk about bridges. We do have $12,000 in the capital projects fund right now for guardrails, and there's nothing in the 5-year plan for guardrails. But Jim and I have cruised around the roads, and we have some ideas that how we could spend $12,000 and probably need more money next year, is being probably the only expenditure we don't have in the 5-year plan for highway would be guardrails, that we probably could put some money in and get most of them taken care of or addressed by between the 2 years. So Jim, why don't you?
Yeah, I met with Quaker, I think it's called Quaker Corporation, and he gave me a price on used beam rail, which would be less shiny. You know, it's already has that weathered look to it, and new posts. And his price came in minus the anchoring system at $15,590, and that was for 770 feet. And the removal of the existing material would be done by us. I did call him today because there's some areas where it really drops off, and I didn't want a car or truck to hit the guardrail and take everything with them over the hill. So the anchoring system is around $600 per anchor.
You said the 770 feet was how much?
15,500 plus the anchoring system.
Right.
That, I think, by Billy Gold's on opposite side of his house on going up the hill on the right side would need anchoring, and below Pier Thomas right in that area there's another section that would need anchoring, and then down before you get to the Wolves it drops off on the side pretty well. So there's probably 3 areas there that wouldn't need anchoring, so that would be 6 anchors, so another 4,000 or so.
I don't think I asked Gordon this earlier. Is that something that the town can pour themselves?
Yeah, we could pour it, and he told me that the cement would probably be about $100 to fill it, and then they do their bolts and that.
Well,
So.
setting the bolts in the concrete.
Yeah, and making
Right
sure they're,
place.
yeah, that's, I'd rather they did that, so.
Okay, so.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll probably be working alongside of them, offering flagging, road signs, and taking care of traffic while this is going on.
Did I hear or read somewhere that whether it's towns in the area or the state are going back to the posts and the guard wire, whether it was better safety-wise or cost-wise for how effective they were?
I haven't heard that,
Since
no.
any of that? No. I don't remember if I read it or heard it somewhere, that they
Yeah.
were going back away from the steel beam guardrails and going back to the posts and the guide wire.
Yeah, I prefer them because when we slide with the dump trucks, you know, we bounce off of them, and the guardrails, the cables actually catch us, and, you know, it's not usually easy to get out of them.
You prefer
Yeah,
the
the
steel
beam
ones?
rails,
Okay.
yeah,
You can also
When it
run,
comes
well, you
to-
can ride on the beam rail.
yeah, right,
Extent.
with our plows, yeah.
Right, I mean, not with the plow.
So you
Without
like
fear.
them better than the other options?
I do, yeah, yeah.
So our big areas are, Popple Swamp Road, Beers Hill, so we're looking at something like 15,000 plus.
I think a fair number would be about 20,000 with the anchoring and
For everything.
for everything.
Yeah,
On Popple Swamp,
Right,
yeah.
that's all, that's the only, that's all we're talking about, Popple Swamp.
yeah.
Right.
And then, one area that looked, equally needed attention was the bridge at Swiss Bridge. We gotta get something up there.
Yeah, that was in Robert's
Yeah.
report, somebody.
Batista's report,
Batista's
but I don't, when he did, so we looked at Quaker and there was another company that also did it, were they about the same price?
Atlas, they said that the state bid is $20 per foot.
Right.
So, and that was for brand new, which I talked to Gordon Frisbee from Quaker today, to ask him what it would cost for the new beam rail
Right.
instead of using used. And he said to figure, another $4 to $5 per foot.
So he's coming
He's coming in higher,
higher than the state bid.
right?
Who was coming in higher?
Quaker Corporation?
Yeah, because
So their used price is as much as the new price for the state
20
bid.
feet at 770 is 15.4. $20 a foot.
The $15,000 quote is from Quaker?
Quaker,
For used beam, but this other Atlas is new beam?
yeah, right.
Guess I'm confused.
But he didn't,
Atlas is new for the same price?
As the used.
For a little less, actually.
So is there a problem there? Is there some reason we wouldn't want new?
no, that would be great. We were just trying to, there's nothing wrong with used. It's just as good as new. We were just trying to cover more area, you know. at a
No, of
better
course, I
price.
mean,
Yeah,
it's- yeah.
by going used.
If
And
used was cheaper.
Atlas
it's-
didn't want to have anything to do with used. So I went with Quaker to try to get the used. That's who Jack Preston used years ago. And it worked out pretty well for us.
We've used
Yeah.
them before, haven't we?
Right.
We used both of them, yeah.
We have
put
used
in a
both.
lot.
Right.
We've been happy with both.
Uh-huh.
Did Atlas put the one guardrail up by the child center?
We did.
Right, so if you wanna see new guardrail, that's what it looks
Yeah, well, it's
Johnson.
shiny for a while and ugly, but it fades pretty quick.
like. Still looking pretty shiny.
So are we gonna have a problem? It's too shiny? We wanna go with used?
Used looks nice, yeah.
For an extra $190 to use guardrail?
Well, but
Anyway.
if it gets the look you want, I mean, it's important to have the right look, too.
Yeah, I think we argued that on trim on the town hall.
The right look
Talking
isn't,
guardrail here.
the right look isn't,
Guardrail fades quick enough.
well, there'll be a lot more people seeing the guardrails than there will be the trim up there.
Okay, so let's take, these are just budgetary figures, and what we also probably should do is get somebody up to take a look at the Swiss Bridge thing, because they may have different amounts on putting that in place. So
Okay.
maybe what we can do is actually bid this out with these, I mean, now that we have a budgetary guess, we can actually bid these out for those two projects. The other big place we looked at was Mill Hill, and that looks like most of the posts are there. We can redo that, at least for the
Right.
time being, whereas the ones at Popple Swamp are gone.
Yeah.
So, so that would be the thought, is we get some, before we submit this, we'll get some real bids, and then we'll know what those projects are. That leaves, there's some more rail that would have to be put in down at the end of Swiss Bridge, but we can decide whether we can put that with posts ourselves, or whether we go down, because I mean, $20 a
Yeah,
foot gets expensive really quick.
yeah, but I don't think Swiss Bridge is gonna be very easy to put a post in. I have a feeling that whole edge is gonna be solid
Uh-huh,
rock. We
okay,
found that by Mohawk Ski Area,
really?
where by Sam Waterston's, it was all rock.
So you gotta punch it in with the metal posts, or what do
I
you
don't
do?
know how they do it, but they do it, so,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
How will we end up if we have 12 there and we're looking at 15 to 20 in the end for cost?
We're gonna have to look at that bridge,
On,
on Swiss Bridge. We look at,
no, I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about, oh, yeah, I am talking about where we're gonna get the money to pay for the rails.
right.
Okay, the bridge on,
Well, my feeling is the two things that need to be done are the Popple Swamp section and the bridge at Swiss Bridge. So we'll get a more precise number on the bridge. We've got a pretty precise number for Popple Swamp. So we'll add the two together and then we'll see how much, I mean, it's not, the good thing about the bridge is it's not very long, so, but we'll know by adding those two together how much we have to put in for next year so that we have enough to do both of those projects.
and the bridge amount, what do we have there?
There's $80,000 roughly, or $70,000 in there, but we'll need that based on,
The bridge itself, we could probably do, it's that stretch going up the river. You
Right.
remember we drove down through
yeah?
that drop off? That's what I was saying, it's probably built up
Right.
with rock.
You think we can put rails on the bridge?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Well,
talk, so the section you're talking about is you go down at the last house on the right,
yeah,
you cross
yeah,
over, it's everything past that.
yeah.
And just a short ways down is where the bridge is,
Right. But it's not everything, it's only one section.
but that's
And
the
a
bridge,
couple of feet.
that's the
You're
bridge
right,
that
that's
we're
the
referencing.
little bridge
Right.
there.
That's got a brook, Common Brook,
So,
whatever brook
Yeah.
comes out for 45.
I know there's no fish in it.
so do you want to reconfirm that we can do that
Okay.
ourselves? And then, so if we can do that ourselves, and this is $20,000, so if we did put in 10,000 for next year, that'd be 22,000. We'd have enough to do Popple Swamp and the bridge and buy some new posts or whatever we need to do on the hill.
You wanna plan, we had money this year, didn't we?
Yeah,
So,
but we don't have enough.
oh, okay. Because Popple Swamp's kind of in dire need.
Yeah.
Unless we.
Yeah, and we'd have to go to the Board of Finance and transfer
Okay.
enough money for once we get those final figures.
Or we do what we can with 12,000 and, and tackle the rest.
Because it's sections, right? How many
Yeah, it
sections?
is sections, yeah.
Right?
There's two sections, or one section is 107 feet on each side.
Right,
So there's 300 and
right.
something, and, yeah. I think we could probably pull it off that way.
Just out of curiosity, how many feet do you think they can do in a day? Do you think there would be a price, that price would be good whether we did 200 feet or 700 feet? Do they care?
Yeah, I don't think they care.
They just can get what they can get done?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And you thought they said they could work, now's a good time?
Yeah, frozen ground is no problem.
Right.
And he said you can push right through it.
So,
Snowbanks are problems, and
Snowbanks,
snowbanks, as long as we don't have snowbanks.
because then they can't gauge how deep
I
they
think
go.
it's just hard to, if you drop a nut, you're not gonna find it. Probably, I'm guessing.
all right. So then, we're sort of bouncing around a little bit, but it's why we're on here. Do we want to then authorize Jim to then solicit bids from these two companies and do as much on Popple Swamp with the 12,000 we have to date, and then get a firm figure while they're doing that to complete the work down there,
Okay.
right? So we'll get, I mean, if we have it, they can work in this beautiful weather. And we have.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
If they're willing to work in this weather.
Let's do
The
it.
problem is in July, or whatever it is, there's too many other things to happen to
Right.
be sort of supervising or helping them or flagging them. You're trying to mow and you're trying to clean out catch basins. I mean, you're only
Yeah.
trying to plow now. Fight fires is not that much going on.
Right,
And
Yeah.
stay on the road.
But I think the idea that you're saying that they spend right now the 12,000.
Right.
Maybe you leave out 170-foot section or one
Yeah.
section?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just, I think I'll go with the worst spot, you know, that could cause, you know, a lot of injury. And we'll go from there, you know, that way, I think you'll look at the worst spot first. You know, may include an anchor too. But
Okay.
you know, there's two places there that I'd hate to see someone go off the road.
Okay, so that's a motion to proceed on Poplar with
Okay.
$12,000. Yeah,
It's a motion to authorize Jim to solicit bids from these two companies, being
Right.
Quaker and who's the other one? Atlas. And do as much work on Popple Swamp with the money you have today.
And then we'll review those bids before the work is actually done.
right. Yeah. So we'll get the bids will be two parts. How much can you do for 12,000, and what's the remainder cost
Okay.
with anchors?
I'll second
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
that.
Next in our capital project is we have $33,000 for hydrants, and I had plenty of opportunity to talk to Chief Scoville about the hydrant plan for Cornwall Bridge. We learned a lot the other night as far as water supply. We do have $33,000 in there, which is earmarked for Cornwall Bridge, so I would imagine we would complete that project, look at upgrading the water supply this summer. We may need some more money, we may not.
Where do they pull the water from?
Well, the original plan was to put a tank by the Cornwall Bridge firehouse. The Bonnie Brook has a 10,000-gallon tank, but that can't be used for anything else but Bonnie Brook. So put something maybe bigger there.
If you had a 10,000-gallon tank there, would it have fought that fire? What would you have needed to fight that fire like
Well, I'm not an
I
expert,
guess.
but what you would need to have done is get there earlier. Because by the time we got there, both buildings were already burned. So, you'd have to get it smaller.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to, I don't know, Jim's more like Babylon, and you can tell him what's
that?
going
How
on.
about Ralph's fire at his
But
house?
Same thing was the water problem.
That would
If you had a
definitely,
10,000-gallon tank, would it have helped?
it would definitely would help
Would have,
with
yeah.
that one, and on a different situation. Certainly makes sense to do on a small house
Right,
fire,
I'm
even
just
if,
trying to figure
even like the
How
market.
big should you go? How
Mark.
big can you go?
Well, Sharon's aerial truck, they calculated that it went through 900,000 gallons of water.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the chief told me last night. That's a lot of water.
900,000.
900,000.
So it was time, it was briefly dry.
Yeah.
So that'd be the two things. We pumped out, you'd use the tank to knock it down, then you'd have to get better access to the
Give you
river.
time to get the rest of the
Right.
tankers in there.
Right. And-
Or the fire isn't as big. I mean,
Right.
that's getting close
Yeah.
to the biggest fire you're gonna kind of find. I
Right.
contend that it's, the lumberyard
Yeah,
fire
that-
is.
that
It was full.
fuel.
It was full.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so we have time to work on that project, but it's all, would be good. Moving down the capital projects, we have $141,000 left in road improvement, which is for this year's sealing of roads. And we're looking at, for this year, which would be done in April with the product that we used, I think, last year. Seems to have held up well. This winter, we'd be looking at Cream Hill, Dibble Hill. Last year, we spent $150,000 on 8.2 miles. And each one of those roads is approximately 4 miles long. But it seems like we get a much better value out of this stuff. And you talked to Matt today, and he said,
The oil price is the same as last year, which
No.
may not hold water. Yeah. may not hold water, so of course it'll go out to bid and we'll find out
So
what's happening.
we used the MC 3000 last year,
We did,
so he's not the only person that has MC 3000, right?
correct.
But he may be the only one that can put it down in April or not.
No, there's other companies.
Can do it because
Yeah,
other years we had the secret pass oil and things, which was
Right.
proprietary, so what we probably should do is go out to bid. We can look what the state bid is, but who, you know, putting down MC 3000 with a chip seal in
right.
April. So
Yeah,
hopefully we'll find the price oil's gone down. Seems to be the trend.
yeah.
At this point, we have money in place for this April,
For this April, for this.
but we don't have a bid yet.
Correct. We're waiting to hear, because last year we went off the state bid, and you got the state bid, but what our vendor who had the state bid last year is saying the price didn't go down. So what we have to do is we have to do a little more research and probably do a competitive bid. I mean, that, the first we heard that's of the price of oil not going down. So, anyway, so we gotta do a bid for this coming year for basically those roads, for the $140,000, and then in the capital plan for next year's budget, we would put in $250,000 for next year's work, for road work. And then, so we're looking for capital for the highway department, 250 for roads, West Cornwall, Popple Swamp, and then sealing some roads, so some of that's asphalt, some of that's sealing. And then we put in whatever we find we need to complete the guardrail business. And that's basically the only capital stuff we have. But we have bridges too, but we haven't had that discussion yet. Do you have anything else you can think of, Jim, for capital stuff? We have the next big piece of equipment will be the following year, looking at replacing the backhoe.
Correct.
We're doing some big work on it this winter.
Yes. I'm not sure what the cost will turn out to be, but the valve body, too tired to think of the proper name for it, but it's all the sections of the hydraulics for the rear, to operate everything on the rear, has leaks, worn out, so it has to be replaced. O-rings, gaskets, so it's taking it out, taking it apart, putting the new O-rings and whatnot in, and putting it back together. It doesn't look difficult, so hopefully it won't be painful financially. But it's leaky and you drive down the road and it does what it wants to do behind you. So you have to pay attention to what's going on back there.
So we're getting better. So then on the operating budget for the year, we turn to that, which is the worksheet there. We didn't see any major changes, did we, on this? Do you have any thoughts on that? This, you know, we have heat, utilities, supplies, small equipment, contracted services. Contracted services went up last year a lot for the vac truck. That's for vacuuming, sweeping the roads.
Both the vacuum and the sweeper from the regional.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we added the back truck last year.
I think we did, because it was like 14,000 just for sweeping, we put in another 5 for the vac truck, which we still have money. See, right now, we're looking at, see the middle column there, is year to date, we've only spent $5,000, some of that's probably sweeping, we didn't use the vac truck, so we still have $14,000, which would be sweeping, and maybe the vac truck.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to pursue the back truck.
Think we can do that in the spring or not?
We're, gonna have to.
Okay.
It's pretty much tied up. The only time you can really get it is the heat of the summer, July, August, and then it's spoken for. The city of Torrington uses it a lot, mostly.
Is there a problem using it in July or August?
Hazy, hot, and humid.
It's a workout.
Yeah, it's a workout. Not so much with this truck, but I ran one with Buddy Robert a few years ago, and yeah, it wears you down. So, but I like, if we rent things, I like to get the most out of it, you know, so I want to move right along. So if it's cooler out, that would be nice. But anyway, we'll work out, find out what the schedule is on it, and keep moving on that.
Are there other companies that rent this kind of equipment that you can get when you actually want it? That might be,
Yeah,
Better
well,
deal for
that's how I got one a few years ago, but that company went out of business. There's a company in Sheffield that did our sweeping, but he buys all auction equipment, and they're always breaking down. So we didn't have too much luck with him last year.
You know,
doing
last year
sweeping.
was a big problem.
Yeah,
He broke down in the middle of it. Sort of
yeah,
left.
every day, yeah,
yeah.
so I had to let him go.
So snow removal, we've spent 23,000 out of our $75,000 budget, which is probably one of the lower amounts.
I think lately that's risen.
I'm sure that's gone up in the last week.
I think
It's a little bit of a lag.
I think we're 2 storms behind.
We should have some relief though with the price of diesel going down. It's funny, it hasn't gone down as much as gasoline has, but
Right.
you'd think on all these budgets, the heat will be better next year and
Yeah,
Diesel.
that, over the last couple of years, the heat's been killing me because, you know, the numbers pretty much stayed there. Back when it was $2 a gallon, and it stayed the same when it was $4 a gallon.
yeah.
So hopefully I catch a break this year. We got the waste oil furnace working. We're certified mechanics on that now. We don't need to call anybody anymore. We've had so many issues with it. We've taught ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's helping us. And then the fuel.
Yeah.
You know, I know it was an issue last year. We used a lot of fuel, but we had, you know, the bad temperatures. We were on the road a lot, but also just so Heidi knows that the fire department uses our fuel.
Right.
There's a lot of people taking it, and it, I guess, it comes out of my budget. There's no fire department fuel budget.
Right. Yeah.
So when that's getting hit hard, it's not only the highway hitting
Right.
it hard. Landfill doesn't matter. They're small potatoes for the skid steer, but fire department, I think, recently has been using a lot. All the Mohawk calls, it adds up.
Did I ask this last year? Is there a way to put like a gauge or a counter on it so you know our
Yeah, I know
department's
Kent
using
has
this,
that.
highway's using
Yeah.
this, and then you
Yeah,
can properly budget
You
for
can-
it?
You can
I
put
think it's 5,000.
Yeah.
We looked into it last year.
the card system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
I
pretty
don't know
good
that it
one.
matters either way, it's all.
No, it's all coming out of the same
budget.
thing, but it could, if we felt there was a discrepancy.
Be more
we could-
accurate.
But it's like, till we have a surplus somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
Tree maintenance. I don't want to get ahead of you, sorry.
no, it's good. So, tree maintenance.
Yeah, and you have more trees coming down.
Yeah, that's another thing I'm always getting whacked on, because we always spend more than the 15.
Yep.
So I didn't know if, since we're always spending more than 15, if we should go up on that, or just stop when we hit 15, which we can't really do either.
Right. But we have had more cooperation from the power company in the last year, so, you know, they were absent for a couple of years and now they really stepped up, so
Right.
I'm sort of optimistic that we can get, that we can hold to that, or, you know, we do have a contingency if we need it. But I think
Okay.
also because of your supervision of the salt and sand supply, that really gives us, you know, relief. That's what we used to use regularly, the contingency for, and now we haven't had to do it even though we've had a lot of bad weather, so.
Mhm.
I think we ought to raise the amount of the tree maintenance.
Okay.
Well, do you do more in the spring than you do in the fall? Because you're only at 4150.
Yeah, I think Mike doesn't get the bills in fast, so that number's probably more.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
budget then when people don't do that.
Well,
Yeah,
but it's probably a couple more. We haven't used them that much, I mean,
But if you said,
Less.
how much does it cost for the day?
I believe it's 1,300.
And if you need the
Yeah.
crane,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
a 1,000 for the crane, 2,500?
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
Usually he combines us with another place.
Like,
so we don't get the full day of the crane,
Okay,
like the cemetery, so it's not,
so Mike's approximately $1,300, so that's 10 days
right,
of the bucket truck and
Yep.
a knowledgeable tree guy.
right,
That's what we're looking at. I mean, you can say he's got the work, or the money's in or not in, or how much he's done. It's approximately 10 days of work that
Right.
you can get from him.
yeah,
Not including, or plus a crane if you need one once in a while. Or not all the work he does, do you need a crane, I would assume,
pretty often.
pretty
Yeah,
often,
yeah,
okay?
down to Chapel Street, they needed one there, and yeah, there's some pretty good ones that they, even for a job like Calhoun Cemetery, just to prevent any damage, you know, they're better off using a crane. So once again, he mixed that with the job he has on the other side of the river. He'll use the crane there, and then since it's in town, he'll run over and do the Calhoun Cemetery.
So he runs around with the crane everywhere the crane is critical, and then comes back and finishes up the jobs.
Yeah,
Without
and
the
he'll
crane.
call me and ask me if we have any crane trees that he's got a half a day on Town Street, you know, where can we go with it? So,
And maybe he's even combining this with private stuff that he's doing
Right.
too.
yeah, because I think he has it for the day, so he has to,
Well,
he's
you probably
charged
have
for
to
the
pay,
day.
you have to pay transportation on it, so once it drives all the way out here.
Right,
Is there a list of critical trees that we already have that we know we're gonna need done within a certain year, and then you have a buffer for those emergency ones, or this is just a shot in the dark of how much money you're gonna need?
pretty consistent amount we have to spend every year. But we've gone through, pretty much, we're fairly good, we're fairly well caught up at this time. But also the power company came through and did the whole town last year too, so that was an opportunity to catch things. And then there was our list that we've divided up, but
I would suggest that we leave it as a possible option of
Option.
putting a couple of $1,000s more in there, and not think of it as a hard number, because
we had,
probably in the spring, there's always a few more trees that you realize they're dead,
yeah, yeah,
that need to be cut down.
didn't get leaves,
Right.
that's a good
They're
indicator.
more apparent this year than they
There
were
was,
last year.
yeah, but the power company did take down probably a $2,000 or $3,000 set of trees up on Todd Hill Extension for us this month, so that was big.
They did those big ones on Flat Rocks this year too,
Right.
right?
Yeah, so.
To
So
some-
anyways,
To some degree, as they should.
Oh,
A lot of
sure,
these
yeah,
trees
they're
are trees that
lines
they
in the line,
They
sure.
should be taken down because they need to be taken down.
so the last thing is vehicle maintenance, parts, all is a bit of a wild card. Last year we spent $54,000, $20,000 on one truck. Take out the one truck and we're under budget, so. But it's always something. This year, I mean, halfway through the year, we spent about $20,000. Getting a new truck, we always live in hopes that a new truck means that will have a warranty for a
Right.
year.
Uh-huh.
So we always live in hopes that will put a magic hole in our budget.
Yeah, I have to go through my notes, but I think the powertrain has 5-year warranty, and it's got really good coverage, so.
I mean, my feeling on a lot of these things is that we should budget pretty tight, and then if we do have an emergency, we have reserves. But I don't sort of like to inflate the budget or put in extra money unless we really know we need it. We know if we have a problem, big or small, the town does have reserves, but I'd rather keep it reasonable, as I said, because of, we've got a pretty good active tree program and a good management of our materials. I think we can do that. So anything else for James?
I didn't know if we should incorporate a training line, you know, and get more aggressive with training.
Where does that come out of now? I know you guys have been to some stuff.
Well, you could, a lot of the things we go to is free, put on by Kerma, but we could just treat that as a contracted service.
Okay,
You know, I'm all in favor if we can do training, safety training, we'll do it.
Yeah, I know the chainsaw class was, I think, or maybe, yeah, it was road flagging and signage was $70 a person. And there's a lot out there. The problem is it's not local. You gotta go to Oxford and Ellington and places that didn't even know existed in the state, so.
Can the COG get together and try to get some of this stuff closer now that we've got 20-something times?
Yeah, we did,
Yeah, I think they're working on it. I think they were the
we
ones
did have
that.
something, didn't we have something where, we had something in Salisbury and Watertown on the same day?
Right, the chainsaw
Chainsaw thing,
class, yeah.
right, where'd we go for that?
Watertown,
Watertown,
yeah.
yeah,
That's good.
okay.
Did you end up all going, or just a couple?
We did, yeah. And then we had a tree fall down in Cornwall and come back.
Well, you got to put it to use anyway.
Cut it safely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Jim, and it's not hard and fast at this point, so if there's stuff that comes up or,
Oh, and I almost forgot, which I had mentioned to you, Gordon, but before I leave, is this bill that we're facing with, I didn't get a quote yet from Tosi. This is just to give us an idea what we're looking at. The tires on the payloader need to be replaced, and that comes at a tune of, where are we? Greater,
it's like 6,000.
yeah, I think $7,180 for the tires. And then the mounting, $340, and disposal fee, $200, which I'll dispose of them, or play them or something. And then the grader needs some tire work. We could replace all the tires on the grader, which it could use for, and that's $3,500, or we just replace the tire, and so whatever, about $600 a tire. But right now it has a flat, and I pump it up with air, do my job, and it goes flat overnight. You pump it up with air. So to avoid that next year. But anyway, we're looking at $20,000 worth of tires. So
Where does that would just be out of the maintenance, wouldn't it?
I believe it's been coming out of repair budget. I believe.
I mean, out of equipment maintenance,
So if we're at 40,000, then
But those, it was like 7 for the loader, right?
correct.
Right.
And the loader's up top.
Loader's up top, all right, so you get all those other things. And this would be the, these would be, this is, which one's the greatest?
The
Grader's here?
grader's here in the truck.
Oh, so you got a bunch on the trucks too,
Yeah, what would be needed for next year?
next year, so then, yeah, so you're 18,000, and then you take out of that 6,000 for tires next year,
Yeah.
yeah? So you're so 18, so you're $12,000 for this year to really get you going for the big two machines,
Right. So if winter stops and we have some money,
right?
we could probably take care of some of that, but the payloader is definitely a sizable bill that we'll be looking at.
Right, so, yeah, so that would be the thing, if we have money left over, we can do that, or else we probably gotta do it anyway. And again, we haven't dipped into our contingency, so we may not buy salt and sand, but we may buy tires,
Okay.
so we should make a note of that. We bounced the assessing software next year, but the tires may not bounce.
Can you just buy one tire for the grader, or is it like a car where if it's,
Um,
if they're so far gone, you gotta go all?
Yeah, they're all pretty mismatched anyway. I prefer them bald because it packs the road down when I grade, but also when I'm pushing it, doesn't give me the traction I need. So yeah, in a pinch we can get by with one, but
can we just salt every other road? Salt and sand every other road?
yeah.
Salt mine and not yours, that's okay.
You don't have to
So-
salt and sand mine. Close that road.
Yeah.
We did that.
Okay, so we noted,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you for your time.
all right, thank you. Even if it takes a while, but we're up to date.
All right.
Tires there.
For two little machines. There's a couple trucks in there too.
Right.
Big tires, big machines.
So, got a couple, we've got the notice for the meeting tomorrow night at the high school. Start time 9 o'clock, end time 8:30, but that's a good innovation, to say 8:30 we're done. But anyway, so that's here. We did send it out to people that have expressed interest in the issue, so they know the right time, right place. I did receive an offer from Jonathan Moore, who is on the regional school board and has chaired he's doing this assistant superintendent search, but he's also been involved with the revision of the 7,000 series, which is central to the issue of the revising the way the superintendent's salary is apportioned, and I think his letter is pretty clear, the history of how we got to this proposal. And that will be well discussed tomorrow night.
The most interesting thing that one of the things I gleaned from this, whether it's the most interesting thing or just one of the interesting things, one of the advantages of this new proposed financial, how they're talking about paying for the superintendent, or however you're calling that, how the superintendent's salary would be paid. The advantage to this system is that everyone will have an equal vote on the hiring and evaluating of the superintendent and determining the compensation package under the ADM, which is, ADM stands for average daily membership, which I guess is what we currently pay for, which is how many students you have. Under the ADM, the vote will be weighted. So one of the things that would change is the vote on the superintendent and their evaluation and pay would be equal among the 6 towns. I think if I understood this
Right.
correctly, I'm not sure, but I think that's what it says. Which I think is an interesting thing that hasn't really been said. I haven't heard that said anyway.
Right, well, that's what makes me wonder, he's saying that, but, I mean, the ABC committee, the people on that committee have 100% vote as it is, and they are just advisory to the Region 1 board. That's where they end up with an ADM vote. And the new plan is to have the ABC committee be in charge of the hiring and, overseeing of the superintendent, and not the Region 1 board any longer, as I understand it.
That may be, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I mean, hopefully we'll find out more about this tomorrow, but, I mean, I would be a little concerned if the superintendent was not overseen by the Region 1 board.
So, yeah, I mean, I've done some research on this and I've talked to several people, and to me, and I could say a bunch of stuff, but I'm hesitant to say a bunch of stuff until we hear more tomorrow night. But what I learned out of the whole thing was that each town, I mean, Region 1, it goes back to the structure of Region 1. Region 1's unique. Most school districts, when they're regional school districts, they also regionalize their elementary schools, not just their high school. Our high school, our region is unique in that the regional school is the high school. Each town in Region 1 kept its own school board and school district. If you go to Wamoga or whatever else, there's only one school board for the region. We have 7 school boards. Each school board, each school district, by law, has to have a superintendent. And so what's happened is, the practice in history is that the regional school board, the high school board, has hired the superintendent. But that superintendent is also the superintendent for the 6 other boards. So that's where the discrepancy has been, and that's what they've been looking at for a long time, is this discrepancy between the regional board, which is only one out of the 7 boards, does the hiring and the control of the superintendent, but that superintendent is also the superintendent for all the 6 elementary schools. So it's more rational to have each of those school districts that also has to have a superintendent have input and vote and pay for the superintendent on an equal basis, as opposed to the prorated system, which only applies to the high school. So that's been the difference between, the conflict between the policy, which says one thing, and the reality is that each school has to have its own superintendent. So that's where all this has been percolating for a long period of time. And the one thing I also learned was that the ADM, or the charges at the high school, I mean, that's what makes this unique. The superintendent's salary is unique because each little school has to have a superintendent. The other costs at the high school all are attributable to the high school, including, no town has to have a business manager or assistant superintendent to run a little school. And all those other expenses have to be attributed to the regional school, which is the high school, because every regional school, including ours going back for when it started, those costs have to be appropriated out on the attendance model as opposed to an equal share. Where it gets different is the superintendent, because each school has to have a superintendent. The rest of the cost, as far as the regional cost, have to be paid for on a prorated basis, because those are the high school costs. So that's the difference.
Or pupil services costs.
Or pupil services costs, or whatever they are. I mean, that's my tentative understanding, is that's what makes it different, and that's the genesis of this whole proposal, because each town, each little school has to have a superintendent. So there has been this conflict between the policy and the reality of what's really going on in Region 1. But we'll learn more about it. But at least that gave me some reassurance, because if you think about it, you can't assign the costs of a regional school on any other basis, or else it doesn't make any sense. And every school would have a problem if we started doing it that way. Because every school has a different, every school population is going to be different, every town's going to be different. It doesn't make sense for a small town to pay an equal share to a big town in any of these districts. And they change those proportions all the time. And that's in the statute, that's the only way you can run a regional school, which is our high school, on a average daily attendance basis, proportional basis. But if we want to have a say over the superintendent, you have to have then some change in policy, which puts on an equal, so each one of those little schools, through their ABC representative, would have a say in the hiring and firing the superintendent, I think. But that's why we're going to the meeting tomorrow night. But I felt at least Mr. Moore's letter was helpful in that he lays some of these terminologies out. This hasn't just showed up last month, this idea of a 1/7 model versus the average daily attendance model is something they've been wrestling with a long time.
He refers to in here that it's been, tell me about these policies have last been revised in '06. This argument, over the last 20 years, 3 law firms, including the current attorney, have recommended bringing the region into compliance with statutes 10-157A and 10-158A. I mean, I'm not sure what that means, but it seems like this has been being discussed on and off for, I think attorneys made recommendations and they've all.
They said,
yeah,
oh,
great, put it over there,
right,
you know,
we like the way it is now,
Right.
thank you.
and they didn't do anything.
Right.
It's been going on for 10 or 20 years, so if that's what this is saying, I think that's what it's saying.
Yeah, but then, you know, there are other law firms who say that we are in agreement to the law.
Does he say
You know,
that?
I mean, like, no, he hasn't said that, but there are other lawyers who do not agree. I mean, the board attorney in 2006 and all of the representatives signed it with the 7,000 series. And the attorney at the time approved it, so. And in this document, it talks about the ABC committee being strictly advisory to the Region 1 board.
So, that's where we're going tomorrow night. Anything else on that? Communication from the Conservation Trust. Got a letter from Barton Jones. Did you get a copy of that, asking the town to appropriate $5,000 in addition to the annual request of $2,000 to assist the Cornwall Conservation Trust in purchasing and conserving 317 acres on broken forest at Trinity Forest in West Cornwall, Connecticut. One thing I thought of was the town has, for a number of years, been collecting fee in lieu of open space through the Planning and Zoning Commission subdivision approval process. And currently that fund has $21,000 in it, which we haven't spent anything out of. We haven't taken the action at town hall or town meeting to spend money out of there or appropriate or adopt an ordinance to allow us to spend some of the money that has been accumulated. So it'd be my thought that we would engage Attorney Grimes to review the situation and see how that money is accessible.
Yeah, I know planning and zoning's been wondering about that themselves.
Right, so
And they would have a say over this as well, I suppose.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And Board of Finance?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think we can't just, not gonna start writing checks, but I think if we're just kicking this money in, it doesn't serve any purpose unless we start actually doing something with it. And I
That's why
think
it's there.
this project is probably some of the most important open space in the town. It's up for purchase. So,
This funding was something created by P&C.
correct,
Was it an ordinance or a regulation?
P&Z subdivision rate.
Fee in lieu of open space.
Right, so when you do your subdivision, you can either set aside a certain percentage of open space, or you
Right,
can,
but there never was a mechanism for,
spending it. All they did was, yeah,
If we can just collect it.
it's easier to collect than it is to spend, apparently. So,
and then all the principals passed away and then it's locked away and the state takes the money.
Well, let's not let that happen.
No. I think that's a great idea.
so that's a motion to have Attorney Grimes look at the open space fund and advise the Board of Selectmen on how a procedure to access the funds.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that idea? All those in favor? Aye? And then I will reply to the Conservation Trust, that that's what we're doing. So, potentially if it requires a town meeting, we can do that in the spring when we have the next town meeting. So, that's that. Next is appointments. 275th anniversary in Cornwall. Sent you a letter from Janet Carlson of the EDC saying it was their unanimous choice of their committee to recommend Dick Sears to fill the vacancy on the EDC. Did you get a copy of that?
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we accept their recommendation and appoint Dick Sears to the EDC.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. We did have a great meeting for about the 275th anniversary. And I did receive from Kate Frygang a list of people that have expressed an interest in some ways to the 275th anniversary. Here's a list of those people. So we don't have to rush into this, but I thought we should at least tonight think about size, shape, function of the committee. The committee will have to make some decisions, so having 30 people on a committee is probably a nightmare and not very efficient. But on the other hand, it's important to stress that all these meetings of the committee would be open, would be encouraging public input. The other thing is, what role would the selectmen take on this? I could see us being ex officio members of the committee. But that the committee itself should not be any more than 10 people, probably should be 9 or something. And
Ruth Epstein doesn't live here, right?
correct, so there may, yeah, so that makes the selection slightly easier. I think there should be some representation throughout town, some representation of different interest, abilities, groups. I did talk to Dick Sears. He said he's not interested in being on the committee itself, although he will follow through with the idea of the HVA flotilla. He said if he was appointed to the EDC, that would be enough to start, and then he could check in on HVA river aspect of stuff without actually having a title. So.
I spoke with Peter Demme, who had I thought an interesting idea at the meeting. about the train ride,
Mm-hmm.
creating the train ride. He said he'd be willing to be involved in it. That's part of why he was there. Whether we can pull that off or not, I don't know.
It'd be interesting. I did see Lynn Scoville and Jeannie Potter, who both said they'd be willing to be on it, as did Ed Green.
I think Joanne was one of the first ones at our meetings that said she wanted to be involved.
I know Mickey Nunn Miller also expressed an interest in being on that. Kate Frygang has expressed an interest. He's done some of the background work on it.
Richard, you still have interest?
Sure.
I thought of Priscilla Pavel also, because it's to get somebody from West Cornwall and also from the EDC. I haven't asked her whether she'd be willing, but
Yeah, I was wondering about Todd Piper too, just to get that EDC, someone from the EDC in there.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if she doesn't, then maybe Todd will. You're on the list, are you interested still?
Yeah,
You or your wife? What do you think about your wife?
yeah, she would be more than I am.
Be the two of you together.
Well, I just thought she hadn't been on. I mean, she isn't. You're on a couple different other things, and
Right,
it's
right.
sort of good to have some people that aren't doing other things in some ways too.
Yeah, it'd be good to put her.
Good. She party planner? So that gives us 9.
Okay. Joyce Hart? Nope.
Wow, that was quick.
That'll make it easy.
That was quick.
All right.
She'll hear all about either way, right?
I'm over 9 now myself.
All
We're
right.
over 9, I have 9. What do
You
got?
got Todd.
Oh, I was doing a Todd or Priscilla.
Todd
so-
or
Okay.
Priscilla.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
All right, so if
Lynn,
you-
I don't have Lynn. Yeah, so 10, I probably wouldn't go more than that.
Right. All right, so we'll ask those 10, and then, you know, somebody
Yeah.
doesn't want to do it. We ask Todd and Priscilla.
We'll ask Priscilla, and if she says
Right.
no, then ask Todd.
Right. Alternate. Okay, so there's,
Just because you're not on the committee doesn't mean you can't
Oh, sure, like you said, it's open to everybody,
Right.
so,
be involved and do stuff.
yeah.
okay, so, motion to appoint those 9.5 people.
So moved. Or second, whichever one you're looking for.
Okay. Any discussion? And then we'll be there as ex officio coordinator.
Aye.
Alright. Let's see, I did talk to Fred Scoville, and he's expressed an interest in being the tree warden. and give him a little time to rest up before make it official, but there is that interest. He was interested. I have the handbook, and actually the coordinator of this for the state was one of his professors at UConn, so I think that'd be a good candidate, but I'll wait a little bit on that.
Was there some training or certification that he had to get?
He has to be a certified arborist, which he already is,
Oh, okay.
so that's good. Somewhere we got a letter of support for the town historian position from Ron Vogel, from a former teacher, Bill Devoti. Did I forward that to you?
Yeah.
And then tonight, somewhere, I got
It's on the desk right next to the
there's
door.
a letter attached to the door from Dodie Wolf about the door. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Yeah.
See it? You see it, Richard?
No,
Um,
maybe it's in here, I didn't see it.
Maybe you can see the copy.
You make copies for us tonight.
I'm gonna copy it for you, that was.
This looks like this.
Oh, it's side,
the wrong one.
too much paper. Here it is. Okay, there you go. Got it.
Just in time.
So I don't really know her well. So I know she's been in town forever.
Yep,
So the second paragraph says Cornwall in 1215 is not the town I grew up in.
right.
So,
Well,
she's
I assume
thinking
it-
2015?
I assume that's 2050,
Okay,
or else you really is an old timer.
yeah, no, I didn't even hear that. But it doesn't sound like, while she might have just the history of growing up in town, when I read like what Robin has just for knowledge and studying and getting deep down in the roots of everything from that letter and from the letters of recommendation that others have sent in, I would be more inclined to have someone with that kind of experience in the position.
Smith. Must have been an interesting character. Actually, Jim Terrell tells a story about him.
Craig, his son,
No, about Bill.
Bill,
Yeah.
right?
You'll have to ask Jim, I can't tell, I won't do the story
Doug,
justice.
We,
I won't do the story justice, you'll have to ask him the story. Giving him a ride or something when he was a kid, I think Jim was a kid.
right,
16 or 18-year-old kid with a car, and he had to give him a ride to do something about that.
Yeah.
So this would be in the 60s or early 70s.
I think those stories are an important part of the town's history, and I know, it's, you know, it's interesting, because we have, a rejuvenated historic society now with a full-time staff person, so the job isn't as daunting as it was when Michael Gannett was sort of the whole show. I think we have two very good candidates. I know Vera did say she does rely on Doty periodically for historical information.
Well, it just seems like Robin's got some well-rounded experience as well, according to her application or her letter of interest. She has letters from a teacher as well as a student. Letters of reference and another member of the community. So I made the motion last meeting, I'll make it again to appoint Robin Vogel as our town historian.
Well, should we, now that we have a second choice here, should we take some time to find out who this person is, or if you don't know who he is? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I know who she is, I know her personally about as well as I know Robin personally. I'm just going by the information that has been presented here and who has expressed the most interest in the position from the get-go, from when we originally put the word out.
But also, I don't think any other candidates have been asked to give letters of reference. So, I mean, I'm sure Doty could get a half dozen letters of support too. I mean, it doesn't.
I'm sure too, but we also asked for letters of interest a month and a half ago.
Right.
And
And
we're
there's
just
other,
getting this now.
2 months.
2 months, I don't know how long.
The position's been empty for 5 years.
Right, and that's what was my argument last meeting, that it's been empty for that long, and we had a candidate or someone come forward with interest, with documentation from supporters, you know, behind her, and we pushed it off then.
No, it's like a lot of things, it's, time is always of, some things are pressing and other things are less pressing. So I think, Doty's expressed an interest, and we ought to give her her fair timeframe.
so I'll second the motion with the understanding that I'll also make a motion to nominate Doty, so we have two candidates, and then we vote, and get it done, so we don't necessarily any interest in prolonging it. I know there's other people that have expressed an interest in doing the job too, so I mean, it's not, we can get more candidates, but I'm not sure that really solves the purpose. Instead, we have a good, strong historical society that augments this position that we didn't have 10 years ago. So it's not, it's good to have two people willing to do it. So I'll second that motion.
Well, you want to add Dewey as candidate, so maybe you should just redo.
Right. So she can nominate, she'll nominate Robin. I'll second the nomination, and then I'll nominate Dodie. So second to nominating Dodie.
I'll second Dodie's nomination. How does it work now, though?
Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
I'll second that. All those in favor of closing nominations? Aye. All right, nominations are closed, now we can vote. Okay. All those in favor of Robin? You can do a paper ballot, you can do it open, I don't really care.
Dodie's lived in town her whole life.
Is that a condition to the position?
No, it's not a condition, but,
I mean, I think Robin's got some good background history for what she's done since she has lived here.
and I think some of that would be, you know, good at the, I think they both would, blend well with the Historical Society and the information there.
Oh, I'm sure. Robin's volunteered at the Historical Society, so I'm sure she probably already knows them. She's cataloged some items, looked at some projects, donated some items. She's a member of the New England Historical Association.
Okay, so,
I don't need to do it by paper ballot, I can do it.
Okay. all those in favor of Robin, say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of Dodie? Aye.
No.
So, that's the action on the town historian. We do have other positions to fill, which we will
Is that a
consider.
certain amount of years, or like how long is it, just forever?
We can set the term, but I'm not sure, we'd have to look at the statute and see if it is a term or not.
Does it say in your list at all? If I found it in statute, I've never written it on there.
No term length listed.
Because I didn't find anything. Didn't look further down.
You can do it for a 3-year term, just so it's not a life sentence. Want to amend that to appoint Jody for a 3-year term?
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure.
Okay, so Heidi's,
I'll move that it's for a 3-year term.
Richard seconds,
Sure.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next. Fire. Next issue is the fire. Just wanted to bring up a couple of points. One, obviously, we were very fortunate in such a catastrophic fire to have it well managed by our fire department, and to have such a good turnout from our surrounding towns. I think there was probably 15 fire companies came from as far away as Dover Plains and Norfolk in the middle of the night. Also that we did have heavy damage to the office of the town building official, and they'll probably need some replacement files, which the town, I think, is obligated to come up with. So he's still talking to the insurance company about whether there's insurance coverage for that. But he is relocated at this point down on the basement of the hardware store. It's nice of Northeast Builders to furnish him that space. I have talked to one of the owners of the company, and he expressed some early interest in rebuilding, and so I think the town will support him in any way possible to get them back up on their feet. It's tough when people lose their jobs, or maybe look at that. So anyway, we'll be checking in with him, and I did get a correspondence from the State Department of Economic Development, which is offering their assistance to them as a business in need of aid. So I pass that on to the people at the lumberyard. So I'll check in with them later this week and see how those plans are progressing. But in my mind, it's a very important business to the town, not just for the jobs, but what it does for other jobs in that area. If they don't rebuild, that would be a big hole in that part of town, in the whole town, in the whole economic fabric that we've been trying to build and preserve. So it's critical that we do what we can, and if we can help with some state resources or whatever, we will make that effort. So anyway, I'm glad they're trying to regroup, and they're lucky to have other places they can work out of here, as well as other lumberyards they can use. So
regarding the building official files,
yeah,
do we store them electronically as well? Does he scan everything that comes in and put it in a file somewhere?
I'm not sure. I'll find out from that.
In such instances,
What?
in such instances,
Right.
we do have some kind of a.
I'll find out
Database.
whether he has those. A lot of these go back a long time.
I know, but I'm just saying if it's become a common practice, or maybe it
Right.
should, and for planning and zoning and wetlands and,
Right.
all of those departments, we have the scanner. Does planning and zoning or the town clerk have one that they can use as well?
We just have the small ones
Just that one,
presently.
So maybe it might make sense to look into doing something like that.
Okay, anything else on the fire? Budget schedule. Thought we should meet again next week to go over bridges, other budget things, and talk to Roger about sidewalk projects. So we can meet a week from tonight, if that's convenient.
It's fine with me.
27th, 7:30.
Right. Let's see, we had two additions to the agenda.
Well, there's three more.
There are three more, but I'm trying to find the paperwork for the thing I was talking.
Resolution
Yeah.
for the Northwest Northwest Economic Development.
Oh, here it is. Okay, so did you get a copy of this?
Yeah.
This was circulated at the last council governance meeting. This is the Northwest Connecticut Career and Workforce Training Services Coalition. It's a group of businesses, the Northwest Chamber of Commerce, and I think very importantly, the educational institutions in the area, including the Northwestern Community College, UConn UConn branch. Its objective is to encourage promotion of the education and training by trade schools, Northwest Community College and UConn. Expand workforce training at area high schools and trade schools, and evaluate the workforce needs of regional employers. So this is important because of businesses feel that a key thing is the level of training of their prospective employees, and this would be a link between the businesses and the educational places as part of the economic development strategy for the region. So Doug Parker wanted this within a month, hopefully the month of January. It'd be good if we could do it tonight. If you have questions, we could do it next meeting. But it seems pretty straightforward.
So did
It
you
seems pretty
have this
exciting.
on the 7th, but we just got it today? Sent to you on the 7th and then sent to me today.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to read it all today.
Right, we can certainly put it off till next week. You want to do that? I just wanted to make sure it got on our, to be honest with everything else going on, I forgot about it. So I just wanted to make sure it got onto our agenda.
I'll put it on the,
We can put it on the
Next
meeting
Tuesday.
call for next Tuesday. I can do that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And there's I think it's,
they're asking us to make a resolution that we're in
that
support
we
of this.
endorse this increased workforce education, training,
Do they already
developing the
have
workforce.
the grant or they're applying for the grant?
I believe they're applying for it.
The concept seems fine, I didn't have a chance to read it myself.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
so
I
we
know
just, we
it's-
can just put it on
All
for
right,
next,
so let's table it till
next
next week.
Tuesday. And that'll be, we'll do that also part of the budget, and, I mean,
Yeah.
the budget and then this.
We'll do it,
second
yeah.
item on it.
After the budget, or whatever. Let's see what else we have. We had Popple Swamp.
Do you have any update?
I talked to Dave Batista last week, who said he would try to get down to start surveying this week, so I don't know if he's actually gotten to the site or not. So that would be the next step.
And
He
then-
was waiting for the rain to reduce the snow amount, so at least we accomplished that
Now
over
we
the
can
weekend.
slide down in there.
Right. So anyway, he's underway on that. He did say that the fee was $6,100, not $5,500, so.
So there wasn't a
Oh,
pretty,
because
It
there
wasn't
was
a
there's
package.
two different numbers, that's right.
it wasn't a package deal.
Well, then the package deal. The next thing, the King quit claim, I'm still waiting for that Mylar, but I'll call the surveyor back and get a hold of the Pizzosi King.
This is our regular one.
Right.
Last week was,
Special. One
was
special.
the shortened budget.
Right.
meeting.
Okay, so, let's see, that's it for additions to the agenda. Public comment, are there any public comments?
Yeah, I would like to make a public comment. I am embarrassed, uncomfortable, and absolutely horrified. I mean, not since I saw Rachel Matsudaria run out of the meeting with you guys crying and in tears over something that she felt she had been promised and which I'm glad to see you're now honoring, have I felt this uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know Robin that well. She lives in my part of the community, but I think when a candidate puts himself forward and offers their services since Thanksgiving, she's been at 4 meetings, and you had to run to find Dodie to get her to write something at the last minute on the door. She can't even get it in. And then you even talk about extending it further, that maybe someone would endorse her. So this is like the 8th grade lunchroom. Favoritism is wrong, especially in the face of expressed interest by a qualified candidate with endorsements. I think you ought to be embarrassed, and I certainly am embarrassed. And why do people want to volunteer when they get treated like Robin's been treated? It was horrible to sit here. And the thing that I'm glad is that Richard is recording this so other people can tune in and see it, because we should all be ashamed. People who come forward should be respected and honored. And I think Robin was treated really very inappropriately, and it was cruel.
Any other comments? Okay, next we have litigation, delinquent taxes. So I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss delinquent taxes and highway garage plan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.